I, of course, told him, Satan, get out of here. I don't want to hear that stuff. But he said, well, take a listen to what they've got to say, and I did. That didn't do too much for me because they couldn't put it in the terms I could understand. And then and they said, okay, here's some papers that have been written. Will you take a look at them? I said, sure, I'll do that for you. So when I looked at the science, I was dumbfounded, truly, because it was something that took me back 50 years in my journey through medicine. So about 50 years ago and a half, I was a first-year medical student, and a biochemist who was a Nobel laureate gave the first lecture in biochemistry, and I'm listening to him, and he's describing what you today know as the Krebs cycle. Mm-hmm. The Krebs cycle is that process in our cells that makes energy. Mm-hmm. And so it tells us how we use oxygen and combust it within our cells and in the mitochondria and make energy. And he said, so we're pretty knowledgeable about this, but what we don't know is how we handle the side products. And we're working on it. Well, a few years later, a fellow comes along by the name of Joel McCord and studies with this same man. Now, this is at Duke Medical School, and so as a medical student, I was certainly impressed with what he said, but I had no idea what it meant. When McCord comes along, he is trying to figure out, well, if the cell makes energy and we have these side products, and they're called what? Free radicals. Because when you combust gasoline, you make carbon monoxide. Mm-hmm. When you combust oxygen, you make a free radical, oxygen molecules. Those things are immediately neutralized by other things made in our cell called antioxidants. So if they're immediately neutralized, no foul, no harm. But we hadn't figured that out yet. So McCord says, well, where do we get our oxygen? Air. Who puts it in the air? Plants. So he starts studying the plant life. He discovers the most powerful antioxidant is called superoxide dismutase. And that is what they use to neutralize free radicals. And so here's the lesson. We live in a small little thing called a biosphere, and we're totally dependent on our friends in the plant kingdom. So when your grandmother used to tell you you need to eat carrots and you need to do this, she was right. She didn't know why. She was right. And so the point was that if you ate the right things, they existed for a reason. And the reason they existed, that we learned to live in a symbiotic relationship that allowed us to continue and complete our life cycle, whether you were a mammal or whether you were a plant. And so when he discovered superoxide dismutase, he discovered that some plants had more than others. And the ability to have that must be regulated by something within that structure, that plant. And sure enough, he took about 500 different plants and OOTs and played with them all and discovered a combination of 5 that, when put together in the combination he derived, was just powerful. You could take a room like this full of blueberries, and you couldn't do what that one little pill, Protandim, will do in producing antioxidants, because what you're doing is activating a protein that was discovered called NRF2. And when that's activated, it turns a switch, and you make millions of antioxidants every second. So he went on and studied it some more, and he said, wow, let me see what happens with aging. And he found that the level of free radical or oxidative stress increased with age, which kind of makes sense because we're exposed to all the pesticides and all the stuff in our food and the atmosphere. And the body has to change its mechanisms to deal with that. So when you have a free radical that's not neutralized, it attaches any place it can, whether it's your cell membrane, the mitochondria itself, the nucleus, any place, DNA, RNA, it'll attach. It's a horny little guy. So what happens is the body then reacts and says, oh, that's an injury that just occurred. It shouldn't be there. And sends out a whole army of proteins that we recognize as inflammation. And Shelley, inflammation always ends up in a scar.
Yeah.
So at the
Yes.
biologic cellular level, the definition of aging is a scar.
Wow.
So if that's the truth, then you have to rationally think, well, what if I could prevent that? And in fact, if you could prevent those free radicals from causing the injury, you would really diminish the inflammation. And if you really diminish the inflammation, you would diminish scar formation. You would extend life. And that's why protandim is so powerful, because it activates our normal cellular mechanisms that have for billions of years evolved to allow us to exist and live in concert with our plant life kingdom. So then there's the NRF1, which activates the mitochondria. Because you take your car in all the time, I'm sure, Brian, check the engine, but you never check your mitochondria.
I don't.
And your mitochondria are they're working 24/7, and they wear out. And so NRF1 stimulates the repair and increased production of your mitochondria. The rest of the products in here also deal with the antioxidant production and protection against inflammation. If you followed what I said, then every human being in the world should be on protandim. Every mammal in the world would benefit by protandim because we use oxygen. So if you use oxygen, you're going to make free radicals. And so this is the whole story. So what nutrigenomics really means is that we're going to take our grandmother's advice and eat those things that are really healthy for us now on a basis of understanding. It activates chemical reactions in our cells that fights inflammation, reduces injury, and prolongs life. And that's what this is all about. That's what makes this company so unique. They've got a hold of those products. Physicians and nurses are not taught to deal with this in such a good way, though nurses far more likely to get a good education in the use of proper nutrition and herbs and what have you than doctors. But the world's changing. So now with all of the emphasis on nutrigenomics, and 23andMe, and all that stuff, that's all going to be changing. So my grandchildren should be taking not only protein to lead a healthier life. So now that you got a medical degree, you understand why you should be on protandim. Because every disease in the world is a result of this process, including cancer, which she alluded to. Because cancer is nothing more than the repair of an injury gone awry, and it takes off on its own. Right. So you can't help but try to recommend this to everybody you know. And if you don't know them, it's certainly everyone you care about. So everyone in our really believe the entire universe should be on this product. That's why I'm involved in it.
So I kind of say, like, drop the mic on Dr. Benny. So I want to thank you guys for coming. Thanks for your time. And definitely, I know he's going to stick around for questions. I'll be here too for that, for anything that you might need. But get back with whoever invited you. Let them know where you stand.